Hey there, Groovesters, Groove Stars around the world. Excited to be with you once again. And I have with me a new but rapidly becoming great friend who we happen to be in a couple of masterminds together as of late. A gentleman who is a mindset and leadership coach at the very, very highest levels, and the CEO and founder of Let's Go Win. JM Ryerson, thank you so much for giving us some time today. Really appreciate being here with you.
Ridgey, thanks for having me, man. I am blessed to have met you and continue to spend more time around you. You're one of those genuine people that immediately I was like, I feel very fortunate getting to know you, and you just give, man. So anyway, I feel very honored for being here. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much, man. And I'm excited to hear more about the journey. And I always like to take people back a little bit. Were you always the entrepreneur? Did you start out on the corporate track and go down that route and make the switch? Give us a little bit of the history. What was your journey?
Yeah, outside of college, man, I went right into the corporate world and I realized pretty quickly, about 3.5 years in, I don't like people telling me where to be and what time I have to be there and how much money I can make. Two things that freedom is the most important value to me. So it didn't align with me. And so I just ended up going down the path of being an entrepreneur. I didn't know that I was an entrepreneur. That was not certainly, I wasn't that kid that was starting businesses like my youngest son. He is clearly an entrepreneur. I wasn't that guy. But when I got hired in with my first company so I get hired as a 1099 consultant. And I asked the guy, I said, why aren't you doing this all over the country? He said, why would I? He had one location in Northern California. He's making probably low seven figures a year. And I said, why not? You have a great system. Let's blow this thing up. And so he said, well, show me. And I actually ended up opening the first operation outside of Northern California in Portland, Oregon. And we took that first company to 8 locations, ended up selling that to go nationwide and merge with another company. And it just took me on my entrepreneurial journey where I realized what I was good at pretty early. I was good at building teams. I was good at doing sales and most importantly, leadership. So yeah, man, I can't say that I was really an entrepreneur. I just found my way to it, and I can't imagine going back any other way. It would be weird to be somewhere at a certain time. That's just not really in my DNA.
You know, it's funny because I often refer to myself as the psychologically unemployable serial entrepreneur because I had the same realization that you had. Like, what am I doing spending all this time building somebody else's company? That doesn't make any sense to me when we could be out there doing our own thing with no limitations. And I don't know if you share this philosophy, but if I lost everything today, tomorrow morning I would wake up, get a cup of coffee, start over, and figure out what are we doing next because I'm definitely not going to work for the man.
Yeah, it's actually a good point. My third company, I had an agreement with my business partners at the time on kind of what the buyout would look like. And my dad had passed away. And about a month later, I found out that several $1 million had been siphoned out of our from our business. And literally, so I'm grieving kind of away from the business. It sucks, right? About $2.5 million were personally taken from what was supposed to be a part of my buyout. And that sucked, man. I'm not going to say I was like, yes, that happened. But the truth is that's just money. And if I allowed it to cloud my mind and say, oh, woe is me, but I didn't. I was like, you know what? We're just going to go build something new. And that's what Let's Go Win is it's been my passion project. And what do you know? I'm serving other people and it's taking care of my family. It was a blessing in disguise. Ultimately, I wasn't sure when I was going to leave that business, but finding out your business partner is stealing from you made it pretty easy. Let's get the buyout done and get me the heck away from you.
Yeah, it's so funny. I organized a merger of 5 different companies into one big conglomerate under a corporate CEO guy. I'll never forget it. We inked the deal basically in Stockholm, Sweden during summer solstice when it was only dark about 2 hours a night, right? It was the craziest thing ever. And I got into that corporate situation and I hated it. I just like, so the very thing that I had created, I ended up despising. And my partner and I at the time, after 1 year in the deal, said, Can we buy ourselves back out of this thing? And we went right back out, and I have never looked back. I'm never going to do that again. It's like, nope, we got to control things. We got to be able to create and co-create with collaborators like yourself. Otherwise, doesn't make any sense to me. So, question for you. What do you think are a couple of the top characteristics of a successful entrepreneur?
Well, number one, you have to be confident. You have to be confident in yourself, real belief in what you're doing. Because the truth is, if you throw your idea out there, whatever your business idea is, most people will not be like, you know what, that's brilliant. You should go pursue that. What I've found is people are going to tell you all the reasons that you shouldn't. So I think having that confidence is remarkably important. Like, you need to know that no matter what, like you said, Ridgely, if I lost everything, I know that I can do it. That's the confidence that I'm talking about. So really having that belief. The second thing is really the ability to go all in and burn the boats, man. Like, look, I'm not going back. I'm not going back to whatever comfort zone that I have, but I'm truly going to see this through no matter what, arrows get shot my way, because they're coming. You're absolutely going to face adversity. And it's real easy. And where I see entrepreneurs fail is when they're like, oh, I'm going to go back because this is just too hard. So the first one is belief. The second one is all in. And the third one is find joy throughout the process, because it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. I promise you, you're going to have some tough times. But when I look back at those companies, it wasn't the sale of the company where I was like, yes, it was the long hours. It was grinding it out, figuring out some challenge. And it's funny when you talk to former athletes, they don't talk about the rings they won. They talk about the camaraderie with the guys in the plane or on the bus. I think entrepreneurship's the same way. If you're waiting for this amazing buyout and everything's going to be perfect, that's not the way it works. You should really try to enjoy the moment, no matter how much it sucks at that time. And so I actually wrote a blog specific to that, which is, this is what I call the winning formula. Believe in yourself, go all in, and find joy in the process, no matter how much it sucks at that moment.
It's interesting you would say that, because I'm always reminded of one of my favorite quotes of all time, and I may not get it exactly right, is Richard Branson saying, the degree of your success is directly proportional to how many uncomfortable conversations you're willing to have. Mm-hmm. And I, for whatever the reason, just happened to be that in the last 10 days or so, I've had to have 5 of those very tough conversations. I'm not going to tell you that I felt great elation during the process, but when you get through to the other side and you're like, I did it, it was necessary, I won. Yes, there's a feeling of exhilaration that comes through going through that tough piece, like you were just talking about.
Yeah, I actually just had a speaking gig where I had people do a role play of crucial conversations that they needed to have, because the truth is, when you don't have those conversations, we're starting to build up resentment, whether we like to admit it or not. And in our head, it's just spinning and spinning and spinning. And here's the other thing. 85% of all the concerns we have about, oh, if I say this, they're going to say that, you don't know. And the truth is, getting that conversation on the table, in my experience, 99% of the time, the conversations go really well, no matter how sensitive the subject is. Have I had 4 conversations? Sure. But you know what? It was my attitude going into that meeting. So I agree with you, Ridgely. It's like, don't wait to have those. Have the conversation. Don't point a finger, but rather say, when this happens, I feel why. Because the reality is, our feelings are just. It doesn't mean you're right. It's just how you're feeling. So make sure that you can express those. I think it's one of the most important things, not only an entrepreneur, but in relationships, that you can do. Don't wait to have it. Just take the courage and have that conversation.
And how do you help people as a leadership coach? How do you help people embrace that and actually do that? Because my experience is, for most people, it's super hard. As the CEO and leader of my organization, I'm the one that has those conversations. nobody else wants to do them on my team at all. And I have some senior people. They're like, well, no, if you want to do that, Ridgely, that'd be great. Kind of a feeling. How do you coach people to embrace that?
Yeah, I ask a lot of questions, which is like, okay, why are you avoiding this conversation? And just let them talk. And then I ask, well, is that true? Whatever they just told me, well, they're going to say this and then they're going to quit and then it'll be a fight. I'm like, is that true? And if you can't say with 100% certainty that it's true, which no one can, why do you believe that? And how is it serving you today to not have that conversation? It's the same process I go through with self-limiting beliefs, because we have the story that we create in our head about what's going to happen. And by the way, again, 85 to 90% of the time we're wrong. I don't know what Ridgely's thinking. I don't have a prayer because I haven't been in his shoes. I don't know his lens. He may be really hoping that this conversation takes place because it's the elephant in the room that we're not talking about. So I just take him through that process. It's really easy. Why do you believe that? Or sorry, is it true? Why do you believe that? And how is it serving you by not having it? And once people talk it through, they're like, you know what? I don't know how they're feeling. Actually, I'm going to go have the conversation. And by the way, for anybody that's with their spouse or significant other, same rules apply. You don't know what they're thinking. And my wife and I have been married almost 19 years. I have no idea what she's thinking. I may think I do, but I don't.
Yeah, I love that. I love it, man. Thanks for sharing that. So, quick question for you. Tell me about some kind of setback that you had, besides obviously the one you've already shared with us, something that was more personal, a setback, some kind of issue that came up or a challenge, and what you took away from it.
Yeah, man. It was right before my business partner I found out. So my dad, almost 2 years ago to the day now, I lost him to suicide. And my dad and I were as close as a son and a father can be. The challenge is being a mindset coach. The fact that I had no freaking clue that this was happening. There was a lot to process. To A, I lost my dad. B, I lost him in a way that I never thought was possible. And so, as awful as that is and was, and I wouldn't wish it upon any family out there. It's why I'm so passionate about some of the groups I work with. Um, there's a lot of great things that came from it. And I know that sounds weird to say, but the truth is I value life today 1,000 times more than I did before I lost my dad. My perspective on how blessed we are every single day to enjoy this life is one that maybe I wouldn't have shared prior. So as awful as it was, Ridgely, and I want him back every day. I want to talk to him. I want to give him a hug. I want to love him. But it was ultimately his journey. It doesn't define who he was. And it's made me appreciate every single day having real perspective. Some of these crucial conversations, is it really that big a deal? It's really not. Because when you think about it, our family, the people we love, reality of life and death, that's a serious, heavy conversation. Having a conversation about you're not performing at work, yeah, it's not that big a deal. So the perspective piece, I couldn't put a price tag on it. And I wouldn't, trust me, if I could rewind time, I want my dad back, but I can't. So I'm going to learn from the gifts and the lessons from that. And that's been something that's been pretty profound for me to really sit with and be able to apply in my life. And when I do my coaching, that's really the lens I'm bringing to it is, yeah, this is a big deal, but is it really in the grand scheme of things? So.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. Really profound, deep appreciation for those words, man. That's great stuff. And to be able to take that and turn it around and say, I'm going to glean from this whatever I can and take it with me into my work and my life and my relationships. Fantastic. Tell us a little bit about your take on the importance of mentorship and how has it affected your career, your journey, and your business?
This is one of those things that we probably need to talk more about. At least I need to do a better job of making sure people understand everywhere that I've got to, whatever success, quote unquote, that people have deemed, It's because other people laid the foundation and really helped guide me along the way. Tom McCarthy would be one of those mentors that I always try to give love to because he has always been there and been in a way that he just helped guide certain things. Many authors. So I read about 30 to 40 books a year. It depends on the year. And I consider many of those authors mentors because if there's a problem out there, the solution is always somewhere in those books. So it's one of those things that you're blessed when you have a mentor. And I think the funny thing about finding that mentor is I've never said to somebody, "Hey, Ridgely, would you be my mentor?" Because if I said that, it makes it really weird in the moment. And Ridgely's going, "Man, that seems like a lot of work. You're going to ask me all these questions." I've always just done it a different way where it's like, "Hey, Ridgely, I think you're awesome, man. Can I take you to lunch?" And next thing you know, Ridgely and I are into a relationship. I'm learning all this valuable knowledge and his experience. And here's the other thing. People love to talk about themselves for the most part. So when I take Tom or Ridgely to lunch, I'm simply asking about their experience, and I am learning from the mistakes they made. I'm learning from the successes they've had. If I could go back and tell myself at 18 and 25, I would say seek out more mentors because it's absolute gold, brother. And it's been a huge part of any success I've had is because of those amazing mentors.
Corollary to that, because by the way, I feel exactly the same way. I don't care what it is. I'm looking for mentors everywhere, whether that's at the yoga studio, in my writing, in business, with friends, whatever it may be. Corollary to that, obviously you're an author, written a number of books, etc. What has personal growth, personal development meant for your career and your journey?
Yeah, man. This is you know what I would say to that is the best investment that any of us can do is pouring into ourselves. There is no amount that you could put a number on. So for instance, years ago I used to put a budget for my wife to be like, I'm only going to do 10 grand of personal development this year. And every year, brother, I would at least double that every single year. Because the truth is, we can always continue to get better. In fact, that's why I wrote my last book. It's called Upgrade. I have realized that people don't love change, but everyone loves to upgrade. And the only difference is when you think of change, that's saying that there's something wrong with you. I want you to change because something's wrong. The truth, there's nothing wrong with any of us, but could we get a little bit better? Could we literally just every single day strive to be the best version of ourselves? And I think the answer is yes. And I don't care who you are, what level you're at. Can you be a little bit better today? So I got into it really early, and I have to thank my sister. I think she was the first one to give me Think and Grow Rich was probably where I started, or Man's Search for Meaning was kind of where I started my path. And I just became obsessed with it. And I can't imagine not doing it. I guess it's just so much a part of my DNA because there's so many amazing people out there that have created some incredible things. I want to learn from them. I want to be able to pass that on, whether it's to my kids or to people I influence. So yeah, brother, it's something I'm passionate about and something I try to share as well.
Yeah, man, I am so with you. I was very lucky. Also got in early in the game. Started out kind of in college a little bit, but right after college, it went deep into it. And then I was so blessed when I sat down in Dallas, Texas, with the president of Jim Rohn International, and he looked across the table at me at lunch and he said, "You speak Spanish, right?" And I said, "Yeah, I grew up in Spain. I speak it just like I'm talking to you right now." He said, "How would you like to be the voice of Jim Rohn in Latin America?" And I said, "Let me think about that for a little while." Yes. And then I was blessed, man. I traveled with Jim all over South America, Spain, everywhere they speak Spanish in the United States and Spanish groups, etc. And if you buy a book now by Jim Rohn, it's in my voice
I'll be damned. This is
in
why I
Spanish.
love podcasts. I because I didn't know that about you. And I didn't know you grew up in Spain. And like you said, we're becoming closer as these, but I haven't known you long. That's fascinating. And it tells me a lot about why you show up as incredibly as you do. you spent time around one of the absolute legends and got to increase his awareness. That's amazing, brother.
Dude, it was incredible. We had a deal. So we had two deals. Number one, I would stand on stage side by side with him, and he'd speak in English, and I had to deliver that in real time in Spanish, including his funky jokes about being a farm boy and whatever, right? I mean, some of that stuff just doesn't translate all that well. So talk about needing to be sharp and on top of it. And then everybody wanted a piece of Jim, right? Of course, everywhere he went, everybody wanted a piece of Jim. So we had an agreement that whenever we got together, he was going to give me a few minutes just by myself, and I could ask him one question. So each time we would do a gig all through Latin America, I go, okay, Jim, I got my question. You got time? And he'd be there sitting in the green room, half tired, because so many people are pulling on him. And he would perk up a little bit. Okay, Rizzi, what you got? And then we'd have a dialogue for a few minutes, and I got it in little chunks all around South America.
Oh, brother, that is fantastic. Did you happen to capture all the questions and write it down? Because I imagine a book right away. I'm like, oh, dude, that is pure gold from your journeys on this trip, asking this question and his answers. That's freaking amazing.
Yeah, I have 3 or 4 books of all the quotes and stuff like that. It's really super fun for me. But now, if you see, like, here's Jim's Seasons of Life, the Seasons of Life with Jim, narrated by Richelli. Whoop. So there's me and Jim on the back.
That
When I
is
have hair.
freaking cool.
Super fun. All right, man. So I love to ask this question. AI, what's your take on AI? What kind of an impact is it going to have on us? Are you using it? Are you digging it? What's the deal?
So AI is here to stay. So if people think for some reason it's like the genie's out of the bottle and it's just rapidly growing, I hear so much fear, and it seems to be the social media thing, like your job's being replaced, blah blah blah. Okay, got it. And by the way, there's some truth to that. However, there always is, again, opportunities, and there's going to be some challenges. And that's everywhere you look. And AI is the same thing. There's some incredible opportunities. Do I use it? Do I use it? Yes, I do. Am I as amazing as I watch Mike Phil Same, or I watch some of these guys do prompts and they're like, brrr. My brain doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. I wish it did. So I use it to what helps me really formulate some thoughts, or maybe to make a more concise email. I use it in that way. There are some people that are so wildly gifted using this thing. It's cool to see, because it is reducing work time, at least for one of my amazing marketing directors. It's reduced her work time by 40, 50, 60%. I'm not paying her any differently. And she's getting the work done that I wanted to begin with, which means she's able to spend time doing the things she loves. I don't see a problem with that. So do I think it's incredible? Absolutely. Are there some potential fears? I think so. But man, why spend any time worried about that? Because I'm going to use it for what I can. I'm not going to worry about what it could or could not do. Maybe there will be regulations, but I have only seen really positive come from it. And I hope more people embrace it, because it is literally reducing the tedious tasks by at least half, if not more. I think Mike said almost 80% of stuff gets reduced. So yeah, I'm using it. I think it's pretty amazing, and I marvel at people that can build that and use it the way they do. But I hope everybody's embracing it.
I think so too, man. The thing I've been saying on whenever I get the opportunity or I'm asked about it, because I run an AI mastermind, is find a coach or a group or a mastermind or a class or something. Don't get left behind, because as you said at the very beginning, AI is here to stay. And we can either take it in and use it for our benefit, get things done better, quicker, faster, or you can be swept away and be left behind. And I love somebody, I can't remember who said this. They said, it's not that AI is going to replace all these jobs. AI is going to replace all the jobs of the people who don't know AI. Right. And I thought that was a little bit of a twist that's important. So I was just on a call right before this podcast with you, with some very, very smart money managers out of Texas, big money. And I said the same thing I just said. join a mastermind, a course, a something, so you can learn more, whether it's mine or somebody else's. But do something for yourself, because to keep your business vibrant and growing and on the edge of what's out there, AI is for real.
Yeah, it feels like it did when the internet came out, when people were like, "Oh, this is a fad. This may not stay." Well, guess what? It's not. It's in iteration, I think, number 3 right now when you look at the internet. And really AI is, in my opinion, it's as big, if not bigger, with so to think that it's going to go away, put my head in the sand, I think that's just it, you're really putting yourself at a disservice, and you're missing out time with your family. Some of these tasks that you could be reducing so much more, continue to make the same amount of income. I just, gosh, I hope more people embrace it, because I do think it's an incredible. It's more than a tool. It's a way of honestly running your business now.
Yeah, I say to everyone, can you get this concept in your mind as you're about to embark on something? Before you start, ask yourself the question, is there any way AI could help me do this?
Mm.
Right. So, because the answer is almost always yes. So my daughter, I'll give you super quick, for instance. My daughter is a consummate entrepreneur also. She's ridiculous. She's a soloist ballerina, which means she's a professional athlete, but she has a clothing line. So she says to me, Dad, I'm not asking you for help because I've got to do this myself. She said, but you're a lawyer, which I was, retired, reformed, got out of that. And I know I've got to do these things, and I would not have even known I'm supposed to file an annual report. So could you just send me a little tick list of all the things I'm supposed to do with my business? And I sat down and I'm about to start writing out on my notepad, and I went, what are you doing? Get online. You are a researcher. You know all there is to do about small businesses. To give advice to a person who has a clothing line. Da, da, da. Boom, 14 things came out. So I sent her an email. Here's the 14. Then I said, what are the top 3? AI gave it to me. And then I wrote underneath, and here's Dad's version. File your report, pay your taxes, do your best. Done.
And how long that would have probably taken you, again, it's your daughter, you're really going to pour some love into it. So I'm guessing, I don't know, and 30 minutes to an hour, that happened in 36 seconds.
That's exactly right. It took me less than a couple minutes to do the whole thing, which for sure would have taken at least half an hour to an hour. And the space that it occupies in your mind, thinking about it, that now is clear because I just say, wait, AI, done.
You know what I loved about what she said at the beginning, though, is I'm not asking for your help because I recognize I need to do it in order to really learn. However, this is mentorship. You're not asking, she wasn't asking you to do it. Please guide me in a way so that I can go do it. Good job, Dad. I mean, honestly, I hope at some point that my kiddos say something similar to where it's like, don't do it for me because that's not teaching me anything. But can you show me a couple, like, give me the field of play, give me the bowling alley, like some bumpers, so that I'm not all over the map. I love that she said that, man.
Yeah, thanks. And you know what I did too, which I think you'll appreciate as well, is I purposely put in there long version AI, short version AI, Dad's advice, so that she would get the message. You can easily go figure stuff out using this new tool that you're not used to necessarily yet. You don't run an AI mastermind like Dad does, but you can go do this. It's right there available to you. So anytime you have a question, boop, just jump in.
Yeah, and it's a habit, right? The old habit was, I have all the knowledge up here in my Rolodex, so let me work on it. Wait a minute. I have a tool that's going to make it. And so again, it's brilliant, man, because we're so used to doing things a certain way. And it was like, let's use AI to our advantage. And by the way, here's my thoughts. It's brilliant.
Yep. And I just want to say, as smart as any of us might be, ain't nobody as smart as AI. Just say it. Okay. Right. All right. So this is perhaps my favorite question. And you touched on it a little bit earlier about the mentorship thing, but let's see if there's anything deeper on that. If you had a clicker and you go click, click, and you could teleport yourself back 25 years and speak to young JM of 25, I mean, still young JM today, but the younger JM of back 25 years ago, and have a conversation. And of course, what's not acceptable is, hey, man, everything's been exactly like it should be. No. If there was something, some kind of counsel or thoughts that you could offer to young JM of 25 years ago, what would those be?
Yeah. This is so odd to say it aloud because it shocks me that I thought this at some point. Really, there was a point where I remember saying, I have as many friends as I need, and almost closing that door to bringing more people into my world in my mid 20s, which sounds so ludicrous to say it out loud. But I remember saying that, like, you know what? I really have found my group. I'm good. It's, I can't believe I said it. I can't believe at some point my brain literally went to that because it's, it's ridiculous. And I can't believe that it happened. The world is so big and full of so many interesting, amazing human beings if you're willing to be open. And I would say to my 20-year-old self at 25 years going back, make sure that you really seek curiosity, that you continue to let people into your life, and that you stay open. I think once I read Mindset by Carol Dweck, I think it finally like really got ingrained in my head. Like, don't ever have a closed mindset or a fixed mindset. Always continue to have an open mindset. And I think that's going back to AI. It's like, look, if you're not open to it, you're just saying, I like the way it is now and I'm not going to change. That doesn't go well. That's literally being Blockbuster, and Netflix is going to go right past you. I would tell 20-year-old JM is just be open, man, because it's a cool world out there. And there's just so many people to meet. And I like you and I just met over the last few months. It's like, that's amazing. And Ridgely's introduced me to other people that are amazing. And that continues that way. But if you're not open, you're going to miss on so much.
I couldn't agree more. Love that. All right. I always like to ask this question as we're wrapping up. 3 resources that you would recommend to budding entrepreneurs or growing entrepreneurs, whether that's in their entrepreneurial journey, in the beginning of it, whatever. Could be books, could be resource, could be a podcast besides your own, because I'm already going to recommend that. But what would you recommend?
Man's Search for Meaning. I think it's one of those books that everyone needs to read. I'm not telling you that it's an easy read because look, you're going to be, I cry every time and I read the book every single year for real perspective. I would say for entrepreneurs, read The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni. I've probably read it 6 or 7 times just because I think it's one of those all-encompassing books where, man, you sure glean a lot from it. And then How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think it's timeless. It's one of those books where he just got it. You know, really being open, seeking to understand some of these things that I talk about. I look back and I look back at these books and say, oh my gosh, that is, like bought the book for 15 bucks. I've made, I don't know, 1.5 million off this one idea from that book. So I think again, it would be for me, it would be those. And then lastly, study a leader that you really love. Like for me, it's Nelson Mandela. I think he's just incredible. I know the negatives to the guy. Yes, he was a womanizer, no question about it. And he readily admitted it. But his leadership ability, what he was able to do, what he was able to overcome, I think studying the past, because history leaves clues and success leaves clues. Going back and looking at some of these leaders, those would be my 4. I know I went one over, but those would be my 4.
I appreciate that very much. And I got to tell you, anybody who's willing to stay in prison for 27 years because of their beliefs, probably worth paying attention to and checking out. Final words from JM Ryerson to the world. Some nugget you want to leave all the entrepreneurs that are out there listening and watching. What would that be?
I would say show up as you. So often as human beings, we want to be accepted and we want to be liked. And we start to put these masks on. I think it's like 6th, 7th grade. We start to put these masks on to fit in with the crowd. It's a hell of a lot of work to do that. Masks are meant for parties. They are not meant for life. Take that stuff off and be you. I really learned that, Ridgely, after about it was my second company, about a company and a half in. I was literally separated from my wife for almost a year, and I wasn't in a great health, almost 300 pounds at the time, all because I wasn't being my authentic self. The moment I took it off, holy cow, businesses grew. My relationship got whole. My health got back to it. So I don't say it to say like, oh yeah, take off the mask like a cliche. I mean it. Show up as your authentic self. The world will accept and love you and embrace you. And it's so much less energy. It's so much energy you can put towards that company you're building, or into your health, or into your relationship. So that's probably the most profound thing I learned, is just be you, man. Be vulnerable, be authentic, and great things will happen.
I absolutely love that. Masks are meant for parties. They're not meant for life. JM Ryerson, really appreciate everything you've given us, the wisdom, the insight, the sharings. Thank you, thank you, thank you. On behalf of the community, deeply appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.